Back with another episode of Local Roots. Hi, I'm Todd Studer. And today I am wearing the t-shirt of I would call her a collaborator, although we haven't really collaborated that much yet, but she's also a fellow podcaster. This is the Growing Small Town Nebraska podcast t-shirt. And I think that Sheila Jenkinson, first off, pick some very comfortable t-shirts to be able to. She just gave me this for a little bit of swag that she has for her podcast, but I would encourage you to listen to it. And I also have been receiving questions. Actually, I get them a lot. People find out what I do for a living, and they ask me questions about podcasting. I just last week had about a 20-minute conversation with someone who was thinking about doing a podcast. And so I went through today and compiled what I would consider the top 10 most frequently asked questions about what it is that I do, what I see out of the future of podcasting, just questions that people typically ask me. And I thought, well, let's pass those on to you, because I know that podcasting to me is the future of media. This is where not only things are going, but things are now, that people go to podcasts to get their news more than anywhere else anymore. So I thought that there'd be a lot of interest in this, and based on the amount of questions that I get, I'm sure that there are. So today, top 10 questions that I get about podcasting. First, wanted to let you know that when you need precision metal fabrication done right, look no further than Foxco Fabrication in Council Bluffs. Custom welding to large-scale manufacturing, bringing your ideas to life with expert craftsmanship and cutting-edge technology. Whether it's industrial, commercial, or custom fabrication, they're going to get the job done on time and built to last. Visit foxcofab.com to learn more. Do you have a leak, a clogged drain, or planning a big remodel? Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. Fast, reliable service, expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. And if your air conditioner has been on the fritz, just not keeping up with the heat, get a hold of AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning of Council Bluffs. This is Travis Waldstein. His son, Hayden Waldstein, runs Waldstein Plumbing. Travis has the AirServe side of it and also has a podcast called Circle of Trades. Travis and I were on his latest episode talking about leadership and what it means to him in some of his technicians and journeymen. So check out Circle of Trades. That's the podcast. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it on YouTube. You can find the audio version only on Spotify. And follow him on social media too, that Circle of Trades. Okay, why did I start a podcast? That's the number one question that I get when people find out what it is that I do. Why did you start it? This actually goes back a number of years, probably close to 5 years ago. And someone that I was connected to on Facebook, I was whining about the radio industry or something and saying that I just didn't want to do it anymore. Ended up doing it again. But and he had mentioned to me, yo, you ought to think about doing a podcast. And I just dismissed it. I said, that's, I'm not doing that. That's like a major league player going back to little league. That's the way I looked at it. I could not have been more wrong. I did not see at the time where podcasting was heading. Obviously, yes, there were a few outliers that were successful. But for the most part, nobody was really doing a whole lot with it. And I just didn't see the future, and I was wrong. And since then, it has exploded, and it continues to grow. It continues to evolve. I personally don't think that podcasting will be the same in 5 years as it is today, just like it was different 5 years ago. But I'm also thinking that I'm going to enjoy the journey. So why did I start the podcast? It just kind of morphed into something. Initially, I got into having my own business thinking that I was just going to do voice work with a focus on recording audiobooks. And I did a lot of them. You'll find my name on quite a few books, and you'll also find there was a number of books that were just very, very poorly written that I did not attach my name to. I came up with a pseudonym and put that on there. But I thought that was going to be it. And then someone had talked to me about voicing some real estate videos that they could be used for marketing. And I thought, well, instead of videos, I can just put together a slideshow. And that got me into doing videos for the real estate industry. And then I thought that was going to be it. Turned out, no, that wasn't it either. And then I got approached by the Council Bluffs Chamber of Commerce, and they were talking about doing a podcast. And I said, well, I could host that for you. I have plenty of experience in interviewing people with my radio career. And we started doing it, and we started doing a monthly podcast. And then I saw, wait a minute, there's a market here. So I reached out to other people, real estate agents, also other organizations. We ended up doing a podcast with Advanced Southwest Iowa for about a year. Did about a year's worth of podcast for what at the time was called the Glenwood Chamber of Commerce. It's now the Mills County Chamber of Commerce, and a number of other ones. And there's still quite a few that I'm working with. So it just kept doing it that way. And then the daily show started last October. The first show that I was doing called Morning Coffee. And that I credit to my most recent, I won't call it a debacle, but it was just about that attempt to go back into radio. And I started seeing that there's a market for this because we really don't have a strong media outlet in Council Bluffs anymore. And I thought this could be it. And we could get other people involved with their podcast. There's a number of people podcasting here in town that are really talented. They've been doing it for a while. And I would encourage you to check some of them out. So that's how I began it. Now, another question I get a lot when they find out what I do is, what's your podcast about? And the podcast really, the Local Roots Show is about rural Southwest Iowa with a focus on Potawatomi County, Mills County, occasionally up into Harrison County, but we will stretch out a little bit further because this particular region of the state, what affects one of us typically is going to affect all of us. So that's why I kind of call it Southwest Iowa, but we focus on Potawatomi and Mills County, and telling stories of the folks that are living their lives, doing business in some of these smaller communities. That's what this particular podcast is all about. Morning Coffee started with the idea that it would be for Southwest Iowa and a focus on Council Bluffs, but I found out that there was such a demand for it, and we sold so many sponsorships on it that it got pretty full. So I had to condense it and focus strictly on Council Bluffs. That's why Local Roots was born, because I figured out that we needed another outlet, and the rural communities really deserve their own show. So that's where Local Roots came from. How do you choose your guests or topics? Well, are you in Southwest Iowa? Are you in a smaller community? Do you have a story that's interesting? Easy. That's it. I'm always just kind of looking out. I like to talk to people. I like to go to different makers markets, different small businesses, find out what it is that gets them going. Why is it that they decided to do business in a small town? A lot of times I say, well, I grew up here and I just wanted to do it here. That's a common theme. But that's where the guests and topics come from, that it has to do with stories in smaller towns. And trust me, there are so many interesting stories to tell. And I want to be the outlet for that, the conduit, if you will, to be able to get those stories out. How do you grow your audience? And I get this one a lot. I'm not getting enough downloads. How can I get more downloads? All right, here's the hard truth about that. And I know that there are companies that are promising you, oh, we'll get you a top 10 podcast within 6 weeks. Otherwise, you don't pay us. Top 10 in what? What kind of category are you creating that's going to make it a top 10 podcast? You can't control how many people are going to watch or like your podcast. You don't have any control over that. What you do have control over is putting out content that you like and content that is compelling and interesting to the area that you are trying to reach. For me, it's a small region. For some, it's national, some even international. But you can control your content. You can't control how many people are listening or watching to what it is that you are doing. Number one, obviously, is you want to put yourself out on as many locations as you can. And there are some great distribution sites to be able to do that. Podbean's popular, Lisbon's popular. I personally use Transistor, and these are just audio only podcasts. The video ones, I have to upload one at a time. So it's going out to Facebook, it's going out to Spotify now and to YouTube. So that's one way to just try to get in front of more people. But as far as getting people to click that button, you can't control it. There's many tricks to make it more compelling. You know, the thumbnail is a big part of that, having keywords so it gets exposed to more people, all of that stuff. And that's where having a social media marketer is good. I've got a couple of great ones that I could refer to you. But growing your audience, if you're just starting a podcast, that needs to be way down on your list. If you are only starting the podcast just because you want to hit 100,000 viewers or listeners, it's not going to happen fast enough for you. You need to have another reason to do it. Typically, it's going to take a year or two before you start seeing any kind of numbers at all. That's just how it is. So having another reason to do it past your audience, that's key to starting a podcast. What equipment or software do you use? Well, this particular microphone that I'm using is called a PR40, and that is, I personally like the sound of it. I have used Shure microphones. That's Shure. If you check out any of Rogan's videos, those are Shure microphones that he is using. It's called an SM7B is the one that he's using. The Kelsey Brothers, another very, very popular podcast. If you look at those are called MV7 podcast, and they are capable of plugging directly into your computer. They're USB capable. So that makes them very appealing to get started because you don't need an extra interface to be able to do that. This particular one, I do have an interface that it goes through. So I have a volume control that sits over here. And it also has what's called compression. So it kind of richens up my voice a little bit. And I prefer that sound. That's the audio part of it. The camera, I use a $50 Logitech camera that records in 1080. You can get a higher def cameras. I haven't found any reason for it in podcasting. Who's watching podcasts in 4K high def? Nobody, really. So that's it's a easy purchase, and then you need a computer that is capable. If you're doing a video podcast, you're going to need a computer that's capable of handling video editing software, and that is kind of robust. So I use DaVinci Resolve for an editor. I have the paid version, but they have a free version that does very, very well, and probably would be all that you need. And that's pretty much it. And a monitor. And because I'm getting old and I'm half blind, I have to have a giant monitor in my studio. But that's it. That's pretty much all that you need. How do you make money from your podcast? Well, personally, I sell sponsorships. That's the way that I do it. I know that an old friend of mine, Dan Duffy, ex-radio guy, that he's doing a podcast now over with a friend of his called Two Omaha Fools. They've got sponsors on theirs now, too. I have found that radio people seem to do better going out and finding local sponsors. There's other ways of doing it, too. That typically is based on how many downloads you get. That's a tough game to play. So if you're not in the 10 to 20,000 downloads per show, and even then you're only going to make about $50, it's a hard game to play. So that's the main thing. Again, if you're doing it about money, it's going to be tough unless you have a media background. So that's the what I would say about how to get money from your podcast. What's been your most memorable or favorite episode? Boy, that's a tough question because I don't really rank them. I can tell you some of them that I really enjoyed. I love it when Travis Waldstein is on. He is just such a fun guy to talk to. I love it when Dan Olson is on. We're going to have him on again very, very soon on one of the shows. Dan Olson has a band called Sack of Lions, and knows everybody in Nashville, and is a wonderful, wonderful musician. I just heard something about a show coming up, and we're going to promote that for him in the very, very near future. So I'd say there's a couple of folks that have been on, but really my favorite ones are when someone has a story to tell that typically has never been on a podcast before. And then afterwards, they all say the same thing. Well, that was easier than I thought. Well, yeah, it is. It's supposed to be. We're just having a conversation. So those are just some of the things that jump out about that. How do you handle criticism or negative feedback? Well, this can be tough. One thing I can tell you is that if you find a comment underneath one of your episodes, which, trust me, nobody's going to tell you to your face. It'll only be online. And should they do that, it's cowardly, in my opinion. If you want to sit across the table from me and have a cup of coffee and tell me how horrible I am at my job, I will do that, and I'll even pay for the coffee. And we can have a real conversation about it. And you can tell me what you would like to see different. And we can get body language from each other and feel the emotion coming back and forth from each other, because negative comments online are never about the person that it's being said about. It's always about the person that's saying it. Something has happened that's taken them outside of their comfort zone for whatever. And you see this with politics. You see it with so many different things. The best thing to do is just ignore it, and unless it's constructive criticism. And occasionally you will get that. I got it from my brother. I've talked about the story before about how he said, you need to remember that camera's on you when you're interviewing people because you look like Sam the Eagle from the Muppets. He was the guy that did the Muppet that did the news stories, and he was very, very stoic. And I went back and I looked and I said, oh man, he's right. So, that was constructive criticism. But if it's just designed to be mean, let it go. Just ignore it. And I've had some, and I just leave them up. I don't care. It's a reflection of you, not on me. What advice do you have for someone starting a podcast? Well, it's like I said before. The biggest piece of advice that I have is have a reason for doing it other than how many downloads you're getting, how many people are listening. You have to have a reason more than that, because it takes a while to get comfortable talking into a microphone, to get comfortable looking into a camera, to get comfortable talking to other people and interviewing other people, or having the conversation that is being recorded. All of these things take time, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, and the better you will get at it. Just from frequency and repetition, you are going to get better. So just decide to do it, and then be willing to suck for a while. And it's okay. It's everyone, when they first start out anything, is not as good as they will be a year after they started if they are consistently doing it. And also listen and watch other people's podcasts. Look for things that you personally like and things that you personally don't like, and bring those things into what it is that you're doing. Get rid of the things that you don't like. Watch your own, and you can critique your own. Don't be too harsh on yourself, but look for what it is that you're doing that maybe you wish that you had done a little bit differently. And then at the next episode, you can do it a little bit differently. That's it. It's a process of small changes. There will be no wholesale changes that you make that you're instantly going to feel better about, regardless of what your project is, whether it's podcasting or whether it's starting a business, whatever it is. If you want to be successful, you have to get comfortable with failure. It sounds like a poster that's hanging on a guidance counselor's wall, but it is true. I have never learned anything from doing it right. I only learn when I do it wrong, because if I did it right, I already knew how to do it. So I haven't learned a thing. So if you want to get better, that means you have to learn things you don't know. And that means making mistakes. Give yourself some grace. It's okay to make those mistakes, and just keep putting out the content. That's the key. Where do you see your podcast in the next few years? So this is the last question. Okay, this is me opening up a window a little bit to where my goals are for my business. And I still do not think that this podcast is what it's going to be. I think that we will get better. I think that we will upgrade cameras. I think that we'll start doing a lot of live episodes. A lot of these things, I believe, will come into play in the coming years. And then I see this type of format being replicated in other small markets. I treat podcasting and my approach to podcasting is the same as my approach to small market radio, which I did, which is different than large market radio and even different than Omaha. Omaha can have a touch of small market in it, but it's mostly a large marketplace. And the radio stations are very, very music driven. And they talk about national things that are going on. They very seldom talk about what's happening locally on the radio show. Occasionally they do, but that's the exception. That's not the rule. Now, when you get to the smaller markets, what I was trying to do in Council Bluffs, what they do in, let's say, KNOD in Harlan or KJAN in Atlantic or even KMA, even though they're a regional station, they are a small market station. There's a number around Southwest Iowa that small market is different. You are a voice for the community. You are there to promote that small market that you are in. And talking about national topics, there really isn't much of a use for it because there's so many other outlets. But what there's not an outlet for is the smaller stories and the stories about the people who live, breathe, and work in these areas. That's what I'm doing here with this show. And I think that this same format will work in just about any small market around the country. And the majority of the real estate that we have in the United States is small markets. So that's where I see this going. And I see podcasting and what we are doing online as the new form of media. And I think that you've been seeing the decline in newspapers. You've been seeing the decline in radio. They're going to tell you that it's not. It is. It is declining. And it has been for years. And yeah, they manipulate ratings until the ratings say something they don't want them to. And then they'll tell you, oh, that's just a snapshot. That doesn't really matter. Only because when the ratings are good, you say they do matter. With podcasting, I have real stats. I say, okay, how many views did we get? Oh, it's right here. It's all trackable. So it's to me, you have to be a lot more honest about it. You can't just come across and say, well, we're the only game in town, so you have to have, no, here's how many views we get. If somebody asks me, I can say, look, I can pull it up and say, here it is. This is how many views I got. I can't fake those numbers. So I think that the future is this will be the source of media. And it will be the distribution system for media. It's all going to be online. The traditional way of broadcasting television and radio signals, that technology, even though it's still being used, is obsolete. There's a different way to do it now. There's a more universal way to do it now. There's a higher quality way to do it now. It doesn't matter that you have a weak signal when you can do it online. So why not focus online? All right, I'm getting on my soapbox here, but that's where I see things in the future past just this podcast. So there's the top 10 questions that I get about podcasting, about what it is that I do and why I do it for the rural communities around Southwest Iowa here on the Local Roots Show. And we have some great sponsors that have been helping us out with this because they appreciate what it is that we are doing. One of them is Castle & Associates of American Family Insurance, your local insurance provider for all of your home, auto, life, business, and farm insurance needs. 4 convenient locations in Council Bluffs, Trainer, Bellevue, and Elkhorn. They are local and in your neighborhood, ready to help you navigate the complexities of insurance today. Travis and his team educate, advise, and simplify insurance, all to protect those things you cherish most. give them a call for your free quote. And do you or does someone you love need in-home care? Home Care Advocacy Network helps you maintain your own privacy in your own space while still receiving care and support with a personalized touch. Aging in place can be critical for many people. Home Care Advocacy Network can meet those needs with an understanding that assisted living is best at home. HCAN of Southwest Iowa brings the personal touch to care all across Southwest Iowa, including Glenwood, Red Oak, Clarinda, Council Bluffs, all the surrounding communities. Visit hcan.com/Southwest Iowa to learn more. Always looking for more guests to have on the Local Roots Show. If you know someone with a great story, could be a nonprofit, could be a small business that's just getting started, could be someone that is frequently around the farmers markets, all of these folks. I want to be able to tell their stories and bring them to you and share them with the rest of us. So let me know. Send me an email, toddstuder@gmail.com, and I'd love to have a conversation with them and see if we can't get them on the show. That wraps things up for today. My name is Todd Studer. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.